All right. Welcome to Contro-Verse Open Mic. It is March 11th, Monday, Moon Day, as we say here in the poetry world. Moon Day, because all the poems are about the moon. Now that we have landed again on the moon, first time in 50 years, go us, getting on the moon. Will we find that the moon is real? Because I've heard that the moon isn't real. That it's a spaceship or that it's hollow. There's like 1,000 different things that the moon is aside from the moon. We'll find out. Stay tuned, world. Stay tuned. First up, I'd like to introduce Ethan Mackler, who is the bass player here to my left. He just kicked us off, and I'd like to have him play with me here for my first poem. I get us going. This is called, Is There Time for a Cigarette After You Die? I just submitted this poem for publication to the Poetry Cove magazine. It's a cool magazine out of England, and they're available at the Sims Poetry Library in California and a bunch of other places. They're just new to the world, the Poetry Cove magazine, but doing a lot of work to get themselves into a lot of bookstores and poetry stores. So hopefully you'll see the Poetry Cove magazine at a place near you soon. This is There Time for a Cigarette After You Die? Is there time? A split-second dreamscape out on the three-season porch at coffee break? Will I be able to finish my smoke? Will the video play out to the end? Is there a waiting room? What white leather couches and LED candles? A cheese plate? Self-service kiosks? Can you get caught up at the coffee machine talking about bike lanes and miss the light? Is there time to build a community, to talk philosophically about street design in third places? Will there be a schedule of events? Will I have to pass a test to move to the next level? Or is it the white light all hype, like the workplace break place? Bad coffee and no smoking? Anything that has ever been worth its salt has jammed itself in my wounds. Is there time? Is it like a bike path that abruptly dumps you out onto a strode? Or do protected bike lanes lead us like cattle, ushered until we are all of a sudden a baby, unaffected by nicotine cravings or 15-minute cities? I sure as hell don't know. But what I do know is I'm gonna need to be smoking a cigarette when I find out. Thank you. Next up on the open mic, we have Cathleen Chambless, who is making her way from the TV studio as we right now are listening to Ethan play Cathleen towards the microphone. Boom, 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 boom.
Good evening, everyone. It's okay. I'm going to read a poem from my book. It's called Necromantic. Though hopping trains and hitchhiking through Europe sound exciting, I remember the pregnant punk who lost her leg, a snap of bone between wheel and track. I remember the time you told me about the truck driver in Germany who forced himself on, and in those moments outside of yourself, you looked up and saw the picture of his wife and son on the dash. Sometimes I miss chaos too. Blackout bruises, drunken stick and poke tattoos, hazy one-night stands with friends in the Churchill's bathroom. That's the problem with haze. You pick and choose what you see. Point the headlights at pretty things. Glass, powder, guitar strings. Up next, we have Chris. Can we get Chris in here?
Chris Hickey.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thinking about the moon, I was always one of those people that attracted moon people, so I was always very comfortable with them. So this poem is for someone I met, or maybe I didn't meet, maybe it was in a dream, but it's called Sidewalk Sally. Sidewalk Sally sashays down the block. She insists on wearing woolen open-toed house slippers. She says they make her feel like Ginger Rogers, but they offer up no protection from the elements. Soiled, marmalade in color, and quite smelly. When you take a good look at her feet, you see savage nail beds and scaly red flakes. She likes to joke with me, asking me when we're going to get pedicures together. I see her often, mostly every day. She holds court at the bus stop. She seems happily homeless, if there is such a thing. Sometimes a brown paper bag peeks from a bottomless pocket in her thrift store trench coat. It's her armor from the dragons haunting her voyage through this life. Whether it's 32 degrees or 85 degrees, Sidewalk Sally stays in character. Man, does she sweat. When she asks me for money, I buy her coffee and a breakfast sandwich. She tells me she would spend the night with me for $75, and I tell her I have a girlfriend, and that seems to be enough. Her laugh, a cackle, sounding like the rattling chains binding horses to a Conestoga wagon. She shows me her swollen leg as encouragement. The white sweatpants she wears seem painted on and trend more towards butterscotch shade. A friend of mine told me that he saw Sidewalk Sally defecating on the stairs of City Hall. He said she was bent over head between her legs, pants around her ankles, shooting poops in an arc. I didn't believe him, but I believed him. I sort of miss Sidewalk Sally when she's not there. A pang of worry creeps into my heart. Inevitably, she returns with a cast on her hand, or bandages on her head, or barefoot. On occasion, Sally asks me for a smoke. I don't smoke. Then she pulls one out and lights it and blows the smoke in my face, waiting for the reaction. I think she likes me because I'm from Chicago. Sidewalk Sally escaped from Chicago, but is reticent to explain the circumstances. She just sashays down the street, scuffling those slippers when she has them, and talking to whomever will listen.
Thank you, Chris. Again, give a big round of applause for Chris Hickey. Next up on the mic, we have our dutiful camera person, Ann Dorso. Have you come and read your poem? Thank you.
Hey everyone, it's my first time doing this, so I'm a little nervous. Okay, so this poem I wrote 2 years ago, and that's important because when I read it then, there was a more visual element, which would become obvious as I read this. So it's called Summoning Courage. The idea came to mind a decade ago. First thinking about it, and then actually thinking about it. Now, soon to turn 60, I stare in the mirror. What do I really look like? Am I bold enough to make the change? The cover-up began in my 20s, when the white strands appeared uninvited. Natural henna for years, then the dyes, trips to the salon with my fast-growing roots, temporary solutions in between. It's what people do. It's what women do. I'm too young to be old. So, the years went by, battling the white stripe, all in stride, no thought to do otherwise, because it's what we do, and this is who I am. Someone with brown hair, someone who looks young. Now, tired of the hassle, the time, the expense, the poison, wearing a mask to spray my roots between time. It will be such a shock, this process of transition, becoming someone else, but still me inside, maybe bolder, more courageous.
Thank you, Ann. That was great. I can't believe that was your first time. Yeah. You seem like a seasoned pro already. Yeah, I like the white hair. It adds character. It's like it's more interest, you know? I do have a white beard, so how else would I feel about it, you know? So next up on the open mic is I think that's me actually, but so I have to get my poem. Hold on. That wasn't that long. Look at that. You hardly realize I wasn't there. So this poem is called Holiday Reflection. And a few years ago, I witnessed a murder. I was at 7-Eleven near my house. My daughters had just been there, probably like 30 minutes beforehand. And I was paying for my stuff, and all of a sudden I heard shooting right outside the door. And person who was standing right at the door, probably 30 feet from me, fell dead. And I didn't realize what was happening. I went outside, which is not a great idea, but so here's the poem. I tried to tell my brother that I had seen someone get murdered. They were standing only a few feet away, but before I could get it out, he told me to look up the black budget. Abducted children are being used to finance covert ops. I decided not to tell him. That when I heard the pop, I thought it was firecrackers. The person falling was just pretending to get shot. As I stood over the body, the air thick with sulfur, I expected the young man to get up, to tell me he had been filming an internet challenge. But the boy didn't say anything. As he reached out to me, eyes pools of milk. It's Thanksgiving. There are plenty of other murders my brother and I can talk about while the turkey rests. It's Holiday Reflection. Rest in peace to that boy. Next up on the open mic, we're going to bring it around again to Cathleen Chambless. He didn't. Oh, he said he wasn't going to read. You're more than welcome to read, though. Did you want to read? No. What? Yeah, you read now, and then if you have something with you, you can read next. We'd love to have you read those. Definitely. You can't.
So this poem is a sestina, which means that there are 6 stanzas and all of the words at the end of it repeat. So they all repeat in a certain pattern. And maybe if you listen carefully, you'll catch the pattern. This poem is called History. It was 1992, Hurricane Andrew. There were sport boats on ranch roofs and alligators in my grandma's pool. A single sunflower in my backyard sprouted 3 feet. An auburn center so sticky it ate honeybees. That's what a 4-year-old sees. My cousin was 28, an EMT, and still sees the last breaths, condensation between oxygen masks, severed limbs scattered over shattered glass and photographs. It was 1965, and what remained of my father's Cuba was in photographs. He once threw an egg at a general's head from atop the roof. The yolk slithered down his neck and stained the nation's suit. My abuela's anger masked her pride as she whacked my father with a broomstick in the backyard. If the story ends with the last images from the Super 8, then my father's horses still danced in Cuba in fields filled with flowers and honeybees. It was 1955 when Einstein died along with his love for honeybees, how they speak through choreography, each movement a latent image, a photograph. Elvis and his pelvis thrust on TV, while a family of 20 ate cornbread and apple pie. Brothers covered their sisters' eyes. My American grandmother gazed at a roof of stars. The mountains of West Virginia were her backyard, and her father's death coating his lungs with little black kisses that got past his mask. It was 1978, the year of the horse and the first test tube baby. Physiologists with paper masks wrapped around their mouths hold the infant high to fluorescent light. Honeybees drunk off their own honey. My mother grieved the death of her mom in the backyard, a joint held between fingers of her left hand, and in the right, family photographs. Blue ribbons of smoke rise and evaporate up over the roof. THC never leaves the ovaries. The menstrual cycle is 28 days. It was 1988 and Mom was 28 when I was born a week late. Did motherhood mask her agony? Dad aimed for the moon with the champagne corks now planted on the roof. That night, a little plus sign on a plastic pea stick appeared. Honey, we will be the best mommy and daddy. And if you saw the photographs, you would agree. They thought they'd buried their skeletons deep in the backyard. It was 2013 when I faced my back to the front yard, when I placed my LPs in milk crates, packed my poetry and my kitty. It was August 28th, but that only matters to me. A skin graft for my sanity. Just another day for my roommates in the kitchen wearing screen masks as they drained the combs into the bowls, stolen from the honeybees, buzzing by the dozen above my new roof. Roofs plus backyards plus honeybees plus 28 masks plus photographs equals history. Thank you. I'm summoning Chris to the stage.
I love being summoned. It's much better than getting yelled at by my kids. I'm going back to the moon, Jeff. I meet these people all over in my life, and this was a long time ago before I met my wife, and I'm happily married, so this comes from us from the distant past. It's called Biologique. She looked devil-eyed disheveled as she lit her cigarette, blowing sex smoke into my gaping mouth. My anticipation grew. It was just on the train that we shared a moment, perhaps several moments. She, man-spreading, I, standing in the space between, at first unintentional, then a gradual adjustment to a new environment. We played eye tag. She caught me. Then I caught her, dark eyeshadow causing my knees to buckle. Subtle blinks and nervous finger ticks. We both had our hand on the nearby pole, and the train stopped suddenly. Our hands touched as we tried to regain ourselves. Too late. We were set, lost to sea, on a raft of want. Mutual. The first clear-cut case in my life. Smiles emerged, and I pushed further into the small space that the forbidden spot was there. Other people were looking. The gravity at her center was as dense as a billion dying suns. Yet I was born of this death, and I felt connection for the first time. We got off, but didn't, and meandered down soiled subway stairs to the fair array, passing through that boundary and onto others. The bus had yet to come. We huddled electric in the bus barrier, significantly coupled, pushing faces ever so close and breathing in human imperfections, just the right amount of 9 to 5 sweat and smell, evidence of life and pheromones. The suspense inordinate. Just then, she brought me down to her neck and whispered into my ear. I came alive and looked up. She pushed her mouth against mine, suspended in the forever of a moment. Dizzying thoughts and grunts and supple breaths of garlic and mint. Universe expanding, yin and yang, disciples of flesh laughing heartily at the politically correct. The thrill of living evident, causing envy, titillating, People with smartphones look up, but then return to their own deep vices.
Thank you, Chris. That was a great story, you and Lizette. Love to hear that. Next up on the open mic, we have a member of the audience here, Brian, we'd like to bring up. Hopefully I'm not putting him on the spot. We kind of talked about him reading, so maybe here he comes. Great. Step on up.
What is that? Do you know the disembodiment of rage? Do you know the regretful nature of violence? Do you ever, or have you ever, sat in front of someone and had to remind yourself to forget the person they were and be there for them? Have you kissed the hand and whispered last rites? Have you cried still dried tears and taken a breath, knowing yourself as not the coward, the hero, or the villain? After it all, I have still the ability to laugh. I know I will smile. Sometimes you never thought you would. That's what an old man said to a young boy. He asked him, "What is a man?"
Thank you, Brian. Some deep, dark stuff there to get into. I appreciate that. I like the real talk. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that, Brian. Yeah, it's great that you came. Thanks for coming down. Next up on the open mic, we have Ethan, and then we'll have Ann Dorso on deck. So Ethan is going to play us a little something that he's prepared for us. So here you go. Heck yeah. That was awesome. Thank you, Ethan. Next up on the open mic, we have Ann Durso. Camera Lady Supreme. If it wasn't for Ann, the white balance today would be awful. I was totally about to blow it, and Ann came in and was like, listen, let me show you how to do it.
Okay, again. So this next poem was written as an assignment in a poetry class. I'll just give you just a little bit of background on the assignment. In Japan, this is true, that after the nuclear disaster caused by the tsunami, somebody in a remote part of Japan put a phone booth with a old-time rotary phone that wasn't connected to anything, and it's there for people to go and call their dead. And apparently, there's always a line. And the assignment was to say, you go to it was called a wind phone, and who would you call? So this is called wind phone. Hello, Mom. Do you remember me now? I know you recognized me when last we met. The spark of recognition in your gray-green eyes, though you could not remember my name. Can you now? I think of you often. You're forever in my heart. The memory of your soft, kind demeanor, a calming presence in my soul. But I wish, how I wish, I could remember you better. More than the vaguish memories of how you cooked, the comfort food, the food of my childhood. I wish I could remember what you used to say, the conversations we'd have, how you helped me to become who I am today. Your last 8 years of life, the essence of you slipped away. And what I remember most is those last few years, helping you do a child's jigsaw puzzle, playing music that jogged your memory like nothing else could. So angry at this disease for stealing my memories of you.
Thank you, Ann. I never heard of that, the wind phone. That's really something. I think I'm inspired to write a poem about the wind phone now too. So yeah, thank you for reading that. That was really good. Next up on the open mic is we went through everybody, so we're back around to the top again. This is the third round. This will be the last round that we do. But just let me grab my poem. So if Ethan will play for a second. So Chris reading a poem about his wife kind of has inspired me to read this poem, which I also sent to the Poetry Cove magazine to be published. And this is called Reduced to Art. And this poem was also my wedding vows. So it's like 25 years old or something like that. I will build towers to watch you ride horses through our bed. I will gild frames for the pictures of you painted on the inside of my skin. I will stretch my flesh like a gallery, working my days raw art for you. I do.
This poem's called Happiness. Happiness is a green blur pausing among honeysuckles. Emerald scales glisten, onyx needle pokes tiny red trumpets. Hummingbird. Is the exhale of cigarette smoke. The ribbons disperse against the abyssal blue sky. A streak of electricity. Meteorite. Is flocks of coral, cantaloupe, tangerine, and autumn shades segmented on dusty slivers of stained glass, cluttered Christmas tree, monarch butterflies. Is the deviated light spectrum projecting from saturated celestial cotton balls, an ultraviolet arc, cup skyscrapers, permeable, snow globe, rainbow. Is a jaguar bursting from a cage, black coat shining blue, when moonbeams breach the canopy, is all I ever wanted. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Hey, where can we get your book? Somebody wants to buy your book. Where can they? Can they find it online somewhere?
With me or at spd.org.
spd.org. Okay, yeah. Look at spd.org. And what's the name of the book again? Necromancer. Necromantic. Kathleen Chambless. Go check out SPD Books. SPD Books, right? SPD.org. Okay, sorry. I'm familiar with them, but if I was thinking it was SPD Books was the. That's all right. But either way, but it's like small press distribution is SPD, right? Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm pretty sure it's SPD Books. .org. So, yeah, thank you, Kathleen. Definitely check out that book, Necromantic by Kathleen Chambless. So next up on the open mic, we're going to have Chris Hickey. Then we'll come around to Ann Durso and Brian, and Ethan will finish us off. So here's Brian Hickey. Sorry, Chris Hickey. You're not a Brian.
You've been Brian tonight. Thank you, Jeff. Let's see. I don't know where this one fits, but we're going to put it here. It's called Well Wishers. I'm done. I'm beaten. I'm flat. The world is round. If you think otherwise, you ain't got no kind of sense. Simply asshole. Your baseless skepticism does not correlate to enlightenment. Been there and done that. Stupid is contagious. Stay the F away from me. It's a damn shame. It all seemed workable until it worked me over. Constant barrage of negativity. I swallow Lynchian gammon by the gallon. Empathy is choking me. Apathy is the new religion in our postmodern world. Are we still postmodern? Or are we onto something even more sinister? Sullen, sunken, dimly drunken, alone, fellowship fleeting, spinning endlessly out toward nothing. From somewhere that instantly appeared inexplicably out of nowhere. Dimension, honorable mention, detention, trapped in this condition. Don't know when my parole is coming. It will come, though. Sweet drowning, lungs filling, excruciating. If I'm buying the farm, it has to have a wishing well, so I can trap myself inside in constant hope of arriving rescue. Despite the broken bucket and rotting rope, the chance that some magic resides in good intentions may be my only respite. Worlds have been conquered for much less. Conquered for much less.
Thank you, Chris. So next up on the open mic, we'll have Brian, and then Ann Durso is on deck. Take it away, Brian.
Transhumanist. Postmodernist. Plutocrat. Sophist. Epicurean and Stoic. Tell me, what about the poet? Poet, you tell me. You tell me of the grand indifference of the world and its wilds. You tell me of raw core and broken talisman. You tell me of pages of proxies versus polemics that left so many powerless. You tell me of want, and you tell me of need. You tell me of things you have seen and the things you wish you could unsee. You tell me of boundaries blurred and bent into an acronym known as fuck. You tell me of love, profane and sacred, and held safely in the crease of these small shadows. You tell me, for I am a man born of the desert of art, and so I am bound to seek. But I saw something good. It was written on skinned knees. See, one came in from a street. One showed agape, and one showed eros, and one showed mania, and that showed me how cold street can beget seat, and seat can beget stage, and upon a stage you may bear witness to alchemy. For you take that stone, and from it you procure an elixir to hush that scream. And as you rise, true resonance in something we can all believe. For you see, all we are is what we leave. So what of the poet? The poet be so that you may be. You be that one that writes it, because there ain't no need to quote it. You see, life is the verse, and you are the poet. So poet, tell me, what is in your name, for I love you.
For a minute there, I thought it was Jack Michelin rose from the dead to greet us again. Wow, that was awesome. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Yeah, great. Can we find your work online anywhere? Well, you keep doing that, because wow. Yeah, thank you. And this poet's an absurdist, which was the first thought that I had. So that's where this poet lives. Next up on the open mic, we have Ann Durso. And then Ethan Mackler will take us away.
Totally should have switched the order on this one and should have ended with that last poem. This does not feel right. This is really just a fun piece I wrote quite a while back. I just dug up long history of people writing poems, writing songs about their cars. Neil Young comes to mind, but so mine is Ode to Our Minivan. Oh, dreaded symbol of suburban soccer moms, you've earned your place in our family history. Since 2002, you've parked on our street curb, traveled to and from various places of work, in preschool, through college, there and back. Carted kids and their friends and dogs and bikes. Countless scenic trips to North Adams and long highway trips to New Jersey. Packed to the gills for family camping, passed on to daughters who learned to drive and hauled the stuff of dorm rooms to and fro. Stickered with dreams of peace and a political candidate that would not realize his presidential hopes and those of his supporters. With side doors that needed some muscle to close, and toward the end, one that would close no more. and a driver's side window that would not fully seal, and so it whistled a tune while it drove in your ear. Over 245,000 miles of memories until you've moaned and groaned and could give no more. You've been bumped and scratched and banged and bruised, and a cassette player that had still been used on long trips when we traversed our musical memories until it was passed on to teenage daughters who never knew the pleasure of a mixtape. Goodbye, old Honda Odyssey. Like your name suggests, you've been our family's Homeric journey. And now, somehow, we're not quite sure how, you'll be passed on to support public radio.
Thank you, Ann. That was a great poem. I liked it. I like funny stuff. So, and I love that you donated your car to NPR. I always hear them talking about that's something you can do, and I'm always curious how many people actually go ahead and do that. So I think you did the best thing you could have done with that. With your part of your family, your car became. So that's a great story, great poem. Thank you. Another poet story that I wanted to tell everybody today that is not related to Anne or to her minivan or to anything else that happened tonight, but I just remembered it, and I remembered that I heard the story, and I wanted to say it before we close for the week. Or every 2 weeks we'll be back with our CD Collins as our feature in 2 more Mondays, so definitely come and show up for CD. She's a great poet and has been doing it a long time, and will have a great set of poems for us. So, but the story that I was thinking about that I heard is about Lord Byron. I think a lot of people are familiar with Lord Byron. You know, he's like a very old poet, but he was kind of like the I think of him as like an Insta poet, but back before there was the internet or anything like that. Just because he was such a celebrity type of person, and I feel like he cared more about being known than he did about writing his poems. But so when he went to, the story I wanted to tell is when he went to Trinity College, he was also a great poet, but he was also a great lover of animals. And he had tons and tons of pets. He had like the oddest pets that you could ever think of, not just dogs and cats, but he had like wolves and bears and all kinds of different things. So when he went to Trinity College, he wanted to take his bear with him. He wanted to take his dog with him. And his dog was like his best friend. But they had a rule against taking dogs with you and having a dog as a pet while you were at the college. So he was very upset that they had this rule, but he looked into the letter of the rule, and in the rule, it specifically said dogs. You couldn't have a dog. So he brought his bear. He had a trained bear that he took with him to Trinity College, and they had no point. They had to let him keep it because their rule said that you couldn't have a dog, but it didn't say you couldn't have a bear. So they ended up letting him keep his bear. But they brought him in to talk about it, and they were like, well, what are you going to do with this bear? What should we do with the bear while you're in class and stuff? And his answer is, I think you should let him sit for a fellowship. Which is like the perfect answer, I think. But right now we'll have Ethan Mackler is going to take us away, the last bit of art for this week. Yeah, thank you all for coming. Great meeting Brian. That was great to hear you. Great to hear Ann Durso's poems. Thank you, Chris Hickey. Thank you, Kathleen Chambless. Thank you, everybody. We love you. See you again in 2 weeks.